And
So we've got the pacing threat in China, right, Noah? Well, you'd be surprised to know we've got people trying to hold us back. In New York City itself, in my hometown, in your hometown, we've got issues here.
no
You'd think it's
way.
just the enemy abroad? No, no, no. We have city council members in New York City that want to stop us from doing the simplest, simple stuff. So, Josh Barrow, Twitter personality, is reporting on a New York City Council vote that will make appliances more expensive, right? Because they're going to require a master plumber to handle the installation of any gas appliances, right? So when we talk about New Yorkers are facing an affordability crisis, it is part of it is layering on all of these regulations, right? Now, if you talk to anybody and say, well, is it good to have expert people install gas? Like, gas is scary, right? Like, things can go boom. Turns out it's not, right? We can't use these fear tactics to just say, oh, this is hard. Any plumber, not we don't need a master plumber, can do the gas stove installation. It's wildly safe, right? And you can't just appeal to these fears to stop progress and to make things more expensive for the average day New Yorker. So Twitter went nuts here. We had Yimby Land, right, talking about the lever who was going after Abundance Pro Barrow, right? They're saying that, oh no, actually a New York City apartment building exploded. Turned out because of a gas explosion. Turned out that wasn't true, right? Fake news. They got community noted and wound up deleting their tweet because this is what the anti-abundance people rely on, right? Because they don't want to build. So they have to make up stories, make up fake safety issues, right? Turned out, first of all, the building that exploded was because of a boiler, not because of a gas stove installation. And two, they already required a master plumber. So it was a master plumber that fucked up. So like this is, and the Twitter stuff is fantastic here, right? You know, we've got people, actual working class people, actual people whose family does this stuff versus Justin Brannon, who's the city council person leading this, right? So Justin Brannon is calling anyone that doesn't support this an Ayn Rand bro, right? And then it's like, no one is saying we don't need regulation. We just want reasonable regulation, right? It's what works. And this clearly doesn't work. But you talk to anyone who has the actual experience with councilmen like Justin Brannon, who have spent their career in politics, would never, ever actually know that substance. They would never go talk to people who know that, right? It requires no skill at all, right? You go talk to the actual workers, the fights on Twitter, right? There are only 1,000 master plumbers in New York, right? So either this is just a handout to master plumbers in New York who are now going to get to charge exorbitant fees, or we're just going to have no gas stoves in New York, right? Because everyone's going to be waiting for their gas stove to come. It is a really funny thing. I mean, hopefully this doesn't pass and become a thing because no other major city in the world does it. And you just can't, we're not falling for it. I mean, we're not falling for this language of you don't care if people die. Of course we care if people die. That is just not true that people are going to die from this. You can't lie and say that and continue this stuff, right? This dumb councilman doesn't know what a master plumber is clearly, but he can't admit it, so they have to keep going. And we've got, actually, let's go further. You need a PhD.
Oh my God.
So
I'm
this
a
is a fun
PhD to
topic.
install a stove. Bail out the universities, Ben. Get PhDs for stove installation. That's what it's going to take to stop. See, when you started this segment, I thought we were going to talk about the esteemed mayoral candidate canceling the gifted and talented program for America's public schools, or for New York's, excuse me, just New York. We're starting with just New York before he takes over the whole friggin' country. New York's public schools. But instead, this might actually be worse. I think this is significantly worse. These people want to create not only a nanny state, they want an infantilized adult population incapable of doing basic. It is a South Park episode, Ben. You don't want actually to be able to do anything for yourself. You got to call a TaskRabbit to hang your photos. You got to call a master plumber to install you, a master plumber to install the gas stove. Let's just make the American adults stupid and dumb and put them in a wheelchair and just stick some TikTok in their brains. And then they can just kind of order what they need through Amazon Prime with a drone that shoots it through their window. These people are assholes. That's my honest take. This is exactly this is the kind of thinking that got us into this situation in the first place, where you have a tiny fraction of the adult population of the United States capable of doing anything with these things right here, bend their hands. Other than this, a little typing, we do a tip tap, tip tap. There's more to life than a little tip tap. You got to be able to use these things to find your food, to cook for your family, to build yourself what you need in your home. And you know what? Look, we believe in specialization. This is a free capitalist society. Specialization is a great thing. Over-regulating this, it reminds me a few years ago when somebody tried to ban gas stoves in the US. It was a total uproar. People were not happy about banning gas stoves. When the steam zone goes multi-platinum and we have a little bit more time on our hands, back to the basics, back to using your hands, learning the wrench, getting in the kitchen and figuring it out. That's what life is all about. It's about building things, about doing things. It's about being a functioning member of society. This guy thinks he's better than everybody else because he doesn't know how to install a gas stove. Nobody else can know how to install a gas stove. It's nonsense.
This is a handout to the master plumbers. I'm sure those guys are amazing, but we only have 1,000 in New York City, right? This is like exactly the kind of like backdoor cronyism that's gonna be a handout to 1,000 people, and then no one's gonna have their stoves done. How do you win? Let's say you're like, I want to stop gas stoves. Well, there are a lot of really cool companies doing a lot of cool AI related stuff when it comes to stoves, actually. Go build some really cool stoves, and guess what? People will switch to your things. Tesla didn't win only because it's electric, they win because it was a really good car. You don't win when you just ban something effectively and you do this kind of backdoor banning, a backdoor way to stop us from using gas stoves. Hey, how about we invest in entrepreneurs who are building new electric stoves, and we make this like a positive framing and win on the merits, and talk about how, well, when you use an AI enabled electric stove, which sounds really cool because I screw up cooking all the time, that auto adjusts to the substance of the thing on the stove. That's a great way to frame a positive view. Go invest in that and go win in the market. And guess what? You'll win on the merits. But don't win on these backdoor ways, if that's what it is. I'm not saying it is or isn't. I just know this policy is abhorrent. Call your city council person and make sure it doesn't pass.
All right. Thank you, Ben. We'll close that one out.
All right. Next up on the Steam Zone, we have longtime friend of the platform,
Multimedia, baby.
we're on TikTok, guys. With all the kids.
It's the John Ferry experience here on the Steam Zone. I guess it didn't go too bad the first time. He agreed to come back for some more. John Ferry World is always interesting. John, welcome to the program.
Well, it is what we call in my company Final Monday. So it's a Friday, which means that we work just as much as we did on Monday. And no, it's good. We won't talk about the government shutdown. It is what it is. But the silver lining, I think, for everybody is that the number of Teams calls on my calendar has cratered, which is kind of fun. It gets a lot more work done, surprisingly. Maybe we should use that as an index. But
The
no,
numbers
it's good, man.
list the shutdown silver linings playbook. Ben, what are your silver linings from the shutdown?
Yeah, it's kind of like a nice, good moment to breathe, and hopefully everyone we work with comes back on the back end. So.
Yeah,
All of them? You really want everyone you work with coming back? This
We love
person's
everybody.
I think the We Belong Here World Peace Concert is in New York this weekend, so that's a good, that's a good one.
it's a
Congratulations, $30 million award for ActBot. I know this is something you've been working on for a while. Bring us up to speed. What's been going on behind the scenes on what it is? What is this product versus the 16 other acquisition helper softwares out there? And what did you just get put on contract to do?
Yeah, great question. So it's actually a bunch of contracts. ActBot level set is plain language. It is acquisition, AI, and automation software. Software as a service, government users. You can go to, if you're a CAP card user, you can actually just go to acqbot.mil. Pre-award acquisition processes is kind of the most robust element to the platform. So automating all of the things from market research and requirements development through actual source selection and literally every single step in between. And we just apply tools and AI and automation and workflow and systemization to that whole thing. And, you know, kind of the metrics that we're seeing is like 90% reduction in acquisition timelines, toil consumption, which is pretty sick. Everybody on the industry side, we hate how long it takes to do stuff. From an impact perspective, if you think about it numerically, it is not hard to see that the number of contracting officers and broader procurement professionals in the defense has gone down. Tens of thousands of them left or are leaving soon. Meanwhile, the budget is going up, right? And so if you have a highly manual process and you have a delta between the number of people there are to move the paper and the number of papers that need to be moved, there's going to be a massive delta there where the paper's just not going to get moved. Like the money's not going to get spent. So being able to give those folks who are still left automation capabilities to make those processes much faster, that increases their individual capacity, which reduces burnout, but also increases their net procurement velocity, which is good for everybody in the ecosystem. So we're pretty stoked.
What's an example for someone who hasn't dealt much with the acquisition process about like an automation that's going on, or somehow you're saving time?
So if I am a buyer, I usually have to take a Word document. Sometimes it's on a template. And I have to articulate the statements of work that we all get in our contracts. Someone has to sit down and write all those words and think about what needs to be in every single one of those standardized blocks in that piece of paper. Some of it's boilerplate language that just gets copy pasted. A lot of stuff actually gets copy pasted, and we on the industry side see this all the time. You can look at the statement of work and see where the font size and typeface are different, but it's just because folks are trying to keep up with the demand on the government side. So they end up doing like copy pasta moves, trying to compose these documents. So we auto-gen like 80 to 90% solutions on statement of work, performance work statements, SUs, JNAs, DNS, like all those like documents that have to go into a procurement package. And then traditionally, that procurement package would get put on an email and then emailed to a contracting office and then emailed to all the approval authorities that have to chop off on that package multiple times and multiple steps in the process. And like that takes months, right? From like the time that I get down, like start from clean sheet of paper, get that into something that is coherent enough for a contracting officer to actually put out on the street, months, right? And now we can do that in like hours to a week tops, depending on how complex it is, because it's all being done on platform, right? And so like, then when you actually publish that solicitation, usually it's, okay, now I've got all my documents. Now I'm going to load them up into SAM.gov. I'm going to load them up into PIE, or I'm going to load them up into Oasis Plus. I'm going to load them up into one of the 75 different IDIQ platforms or OTA consortium interface. So we have actually a unified vendor portal, right? So like from a contractor perspective, I can literally go to one portal and have access to an entire menu of contract vehicles that I may or may not be on-ramp to. And from the government side, I can pick a contract vehicle that I want to use, formulate that package, get it approved digitally, and then publish that to that unified portal automatically, right? So it's not a whole bunch of swivel chairing down and up. You save your pennies and you end up saving dollars. It's the same thing with time. You save 15, 20, 30 minutes a day, and it compounds to being hours, weeks, days, months, years of people's time. Once you start multiplying that across the 1,000 users, that multiplies into millions of hours a year that we're saving.
I don't think we can just scroll by. Did you just say the word automagically? I think I heard automagically. I don't know if that was intentional or if that slipped out, but that's going in the dictionary.
That's a DARPA word.
That's a first. That is a Steam Zone first.
Yeah.
So this program sounds awesome. As a vendor to the government, sounds like it would make my life easier. Wouldn't want vendors to miss out on.
Nothing like the
What
Windows.
about the startups writing the SUs and JNAs and handing them over to the contracting office so you can get your sole source, awards, John? Are you screwing up the thing that definitely doesn't happen in industry, which is that industry writes the thing that then gets put on contract?
There's certain things that I'm not going to say explicitly do or don't happen, but think about the underlying thread of that. Why does that currently happen in practice? It's because the person on the government side is so overwhelmed with the amount of paper they have to move that if there's a shortcut afforded to them, they're probably going to take it, right? Like on the sales side, we know this all day long, right? If you can make the government's life easier, they will thank you for it. And if that means writing this statement of work for them, if they can pick that up and it reads clearly and they can just use that, they're going to do it. Well, if you take away that cause, that premise, if it's actually easier for them to just do it themselves, then yeah, maybe that'll happen less.